Let's get to a piece that I published on TexasFootball.com today. The most improved Texas high school football teams in 2019. Now, I know what there are going to be people saying. There's a lot of different ways to measure improvement. A lot of different ways. Here's the way that I did it. How many more games did you win this year than last year? I think that's pretty straightforward, and I think we can all agree that if you won 5 more games this year than you did last year,
you probably improved a little bit.
You improved, right? This is a nice baseline look at which teams made the biggest leaps from 2018 to 2019. Normally, these types of things are top 10s, but the problem is that if we were to do a top 10, it would have to be a top 18 because the cutoff is 8-win improvement. If you improve by 8 or more wins, you made the list. If you didn't, I'm sorry. And so, apologies to the following teams who won 7 games, right? Because I couldn't fit you on the graphic, okay? Bremond, they went from 5 to 12. Brownwood, Cedar Park Vista Ridge, Comfort, Dallas Jesuit, Dallas Life Oak Cliff, El Campo, Ennis, Gordon, Hallettsville, and Valley View. All improved by 7 wins.
Yeah, that would have been a way
fantastic,
too big of a graphic.
Guys. Fantastic. I cannot put 19 teams on a graphic. I'm sorry, I can't fit it. And so it ended up being the top 7 most improved teams in Texas high school football in 2019. So we will start with Wimberley. Wimberley improved by 8 wins this year. They went from 4 wins to 12 wins. They were 4-7 in 2008. A bit of a disappointing season there for the Texans last year, but this year, obviously, you saw them playing at AT&T Stadium. A big leap. Quarterback Cooper McCollum, a big reason why they were able to jump forward and go into a state championship game. They improved by 8 wins in 2019. So did Loop. The Longhorns.
I just love that.
Loop. The Longhorns.
That's such a great name for a town.
The Longhorns, and this is, to me, this is the quintessential turnaround story, okay? They were 1-9 a year ago, and they were 9-2 this year. That is easy to understand. Mm-hmm. That is an easy, there are teams that, for example, the next team we talk about was not terrible the year before, but they made a deep run, and so they improved by 8 wins. Loop was bad.
Yeah.
Very, very bad in 2018. They were 1-9. The Longhorns could not pull it together. 2019, 9-2. That is pretty darn good. If you are able to go from 1 win to 9, that is, I think we can all agree that is a definite sign of improvement. And so Loop improved by 8 wins as well. So did another state finalist, Denton Guyer. Mm-hmm. Denton Guyer went 6-6 in 2018, and I remember all of us sitting here and thinking, man, it was just a disappointing year. I remember they started their first 3 games. I don't think they scored, something like that.
Yeah.
Ended up kind of getting the wheels back on and putting together a decent season. But this was obviously a big step forward for them.
And we talked about when we were kind of making the magazine too, because we looked at the numbers and we were like, it's like Guyer. There's 2 things that are going to happen with Guyer this year. Either they're having the same thing as last year and they're losing an area, or they're going to state.
Yeah.
And there is no possible in between.
No, there was not. There's no they're going to go to a regional final. They weren't
going to have a pretty darn good year. They weren't going to have that. They're either going to have a great year or a really mediocre year.
Right.
And they ended up having a great year. Eli Stowers obviously made a big leap forward. Kedrick Cobbs, that big offensive line, they were fantastic, losing to Westlake in the state championship game. But they were one of the most improved teams with a 8-win increase. There were then 3 teams that improved by 9 wins, starting with another state finalist, Pottsboro. Pottsboro is another team that I think you would categorize as going from mediocre to great as opposed to bad to very good. Pottsboro went 6-5 in 2019 or 18 rather. I know that was a relatively disappointing mark for the Cardinals and Coach Matt Poe, but they ran all the way to a state championship game, 15-0 entering that state championship game. Ended up losing to the eventual state champs in Grandview, but this was a massive improvement. Quarterback Braden Plyler, running back Cy Shope, and the thing that the legacy for this Pottsboro team for me is always going to be the fact that they just refused to die.
Right.
They
just held on to the rabbit's foot for so long.
It was great. Yeah, it was.
Let me see. What was
they won.
1 touchdown win over Malakoff, 1 point lead over Gladewater, 1 point win over Brock.
Right. Which is exactly what we said going into that state championship game. Don't don't count Pottsboro out until the final whistle blows.
And then they only lost by a touchdown to Grandview.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. Is like in a close game, you're like, all right, Pottsboro is going to be able to grind it out. They found a way to finish this year, and that's why they were able to have such a big improvement, 9-win improvement.
This next one.
This next one is the one for me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about another team that is far and away the best one, but Pflugerville Weiss is another example of a team that goes from just terrible, just not very good at all.
Quite literally terrible.
Right. They were 0-10 to 9-3, and this is in a second varsity season. This 2018 was their first varsity season. 2019 was their second, and you could tell to go from 0-10 to 9-3, and it was like they won their first game, and then they won their first district game, and then they clinched a playoff spot, and then they won a playoff game, and it's like all these historic moments happening one after another.
Yeah, and I think the big thing was their offense took a step forward. Their defense was fine last year, right? But they lost. Like here's some of the totals they let up in some of their losses: 20, 23, 19, 23 again.
They lost those.
They
games.
lost those games, right? And here's their offensive totals in those games: 3, 7, 0.
Right.
And so when the offense finally let up, like here's one: Leander Rouse, 25-0.
Right.
At Bastrop, 34-7. Like against their one of the other new schools, Leander Glenn, 42-0. Like it was like, oh, okay. If the offense can score, the defense we know can do its job. It was just last year they were kind of left out to dry a little bit. Offense couldn't stay on the field, so the defense was out there a bunch. This year, balanced out, evened out, and we saw what happened.
And you saw what happened. The fact they were able to get that offense churning along was a big reason why they were one of the most improved teams in 2019. Also. Maybe a team we're not talking enough about, but Harleton. Harleton was another squad that made a huge leap this year, and they go from 1-9 to 10-3. To go from winning one game to winning 10 is I probably don't need to tell you guys this, but that's super hard to do. And I think a big reason why is it was a second year under Coach Kyle Little. We talked with Coach Kyle Little earlier in the season, and that second year under them, he felt like they understood the wing tee, how they wanted to operate. They had a good amount of playmakers back. The defense took a big step forward, and so Harleton went from 1-9 to 10-3, which is tied for the second most improved teams in Texas high school football. But the most improved team, and not by one win, but by 2, an 11-win increase for the Post Antelopes, the most improved team in 2019 in Texas high school football. It's easy to remember. And again, this is a team that was probably on like the wrong side of mediocre last year. Entered the playoffs at 4-6, bounced in the first round cannon fodder, bye-bye, right? They were just like, they glimpsed into the playoffs, got blown out, it was done. Then this year, they just couldn't be stopped. Like running through Region 1, a region that we thought was extremely difficult. They established themselves pretty early as the team to beat in Region 1 and make it to their first ever state championship game at 15-1, an 11-win increase. And I think when we watched them, you could tell that they had the part of it was that they had great size, right? They
throw it to number 10.
They had great playmakers. Tatum Thetford, they could just throw the ball at Tatum Thetford and be like, all right, you could run the touchdown play now.
Right.
But the defense also. The defense took a big step forward this year, and that was a big reason why Post was the most improved team in Texas high school football in 2019. So you can check out my piece on TexasFootball.com about the most improved teams in Texas high school football, including, by the way, I want to say that the most improved, if you're interested, the most improved 6A team in Texas high school football in 2019. I want to say, let me make sure I get this right. I think it was... I think Jesuits up there. I think Cedar Park Vista Ridge also improved by that much.
That would make sense.
Things like that. So, the most improved teams in Texas high school football you can see on TexasFootball.com right now, a piece that I wrote on purpose.